What's up guys, it's Pliskin here and welcome back to part 2 of how I would make Metal Gear Solid 5. Today we're going to be talking about the story. Now, the Metal Gear series as a whole doesn't really have a strong narrative. After Metal Gear Solid 3, things really go off the edge and everything becomes a mess. This video isn't going to be about fixing the Metal Gear storyline, it's just making Metal Gear Solid 5's story something that makes sense. Now, with that being said, I want to make it very clear that the central theme to this story is going to be the real versus the imitation, the original versus the copy, and whether or not the copy has more value, less value, or is on an even level with the original. Now, for those of us who have played Metal Gear Solid 5 and know the twist, you can probably imagine why I'm going with this road. But yeah, with that being said, let's get right into it. Hamburger. So I want the story to start off in the same way with the hospital. After Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, after MSF is destroyed by XOF and Skullface, Big Boss is going to wake up 9 years later in his coma, he's going to have his arm missing, he's going to have that shrapnel, he's going to be in a very weakened state. The hospital's going to come under fire, Ishmael is going to save him, same as before, and I really want this escape sequence to play out pretty much the same. There is one major difference, and that key difference is going to be the Man on Fire and Psycho Mantis. I'm getting rid of them. I don't like that they're here. It's like the worst kind of fan service. In their place, while Ishmael and Snake are escaping Cyprus, I want them to be hounded not just by XOF, who is still brutally killing everyone trying to kill Big Boss, but a mysterious infiltrator that will single-handedly take down these XOF soldiers with ease, with a combination of CQC and different weapons and grenades, just very cool CQB kind of techniques, to the point where you feel extremely threatened by this thing chasing you. It's not going to be anything magical, nothing like that, just someone that's really competent coming after you. Their face is going to be obscured, and we'll talk more about them later. But after escaping XOF and after escaping that mysterious infiltrator, Snake will be picked up by Ocelot. Now, Ocelot in this game, I don't want him to play the role of encyclopedia. We have cause for that. Ocelot, I want to be a little bit more mischievous, playing pranks here and there, maybe hinting that he knows more than he's, letting on. I still want him to save Snake, I still want him to explain the situation, and I still want him to send Snake to Afghanistan to try to find Kaz, who has been kidnapped and being held there. Have a tutorial that plays out much in the same way. If you haven't watched my first video, please go ahead and watch that, because when I say Kaz is going to be held at one of the smaller outposts, outside like the larger outpost area, you'll know what I mean more if you see that prior video where I talk about gameplay, map design, level design, sandbox, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're gonna save Kaz, get introduced to the world, bring Kaz back, have the whole premise of building up your mother base. Now, the whole Afghanistan chapter is going to be centered around building up mother base and getting rid of the prior threats that you faced in Ground Zeroes. In this case here, it's going to be Skullface and Huey. They are going to be teamed up. There's going to be nothing ambiguous about them. Maybe Huey wants to be on your side, or maybe he really is on Skullface's side. No. Screwy. Huey screwed you over and is now sided with Skullface. With Skullface, they're trying to develop a Metal Gear powerful enough to challenge Cypher. XOF is trying to become the bigger, better Cypher, but in the end, they are just an imitation, an inferior, weaker imitation. Skullface is going to be based in Afghanistan because he needs the Soviet support, in the same way that Cypher built itself off of US military might. Skullface is trying to do the same thing with Soviet military might. So his whole situation there is just building himself up to fight against Cypher. And that's going to be the core of the Afghanistan chapter experience. You're going in there, you're taking apart XOF piece by piece, just because you know that Skullface has gunned for you in the past and he might do it again. And if you're trying to gear up for a war with Cypher, you need to get him out of the way first. Of course, you'll have little side stories with Mujahideen soldiers and people that you can bring back to your mother base, but I want to talk a lot about that side content in the next video where I'm going to elaborate more on how mother base will work. The only other character of note here, worthy to the story, is going to be Quiet, who is going to play a similar role as Skullface's assassin, who you will find randomly throughout the open world. She'll ambush you, you'll beat her, and then you either decide to take her back to base or kill her right then and there in the field. If you take her back to base, you'll slowly start to build up a bond with her, maybe have like some slight romantic tones, nothing creepy like what Kojima did, but again, in the mother base video, I'm going to talk more about bonding with your buddies, but the gist is, if you bring her back, she'll be someone that finds a new purpose in Big Boss's philosophy and his goal of war without end, and therefore a place for warriors without ever fearing losing their home or their purpose. After building yourself up and having little things happen at mother base, maybe it's the hamburger thing with Kaz. Hamburger. Maybe it's Ocelot coming up to some mischief, or the whole drama concerning Quiet. Eventually, you're going to work your way into the main big base there, and you're going to fight Sahelanthropus in its, two-legged state. It's going to be pretty simple to take down. You're gonna be able to beat Skullface. Huey's gonna run away like the coward he is, and then you'll have that moment where you can shoot Skullface or let him burn out. Your revenge, right, for Ground Zeroes. But then right before you can have that triumphant scene where you take Sahelanthropus back to your base, that mysterious infiltrator will show up. After you've spent this time in Afghanistan, becoming more and more powerful and more confident, you're gonna have a guy show up and kick Venom Snake's ass. All of Diamond Dog's troops that are currently there in Afghanistan because of this whole big battle are going to be beaten back, wiped out, forced to retreat by real Cypher. So now that you've taken out the imitation, the real and therefore vastly superior, and that's going to be a theme in this game, saying the real thing is vastly superior. Again, if you know Metal Gear Solid 5's plot twist, you'll know why this is a little bit cheeky. But yeah, you'll have the real Cypher come there, beat you down, take Sahelanthropus, and the mysterious infiltrator from the beginning of the game will unmask himself as Solidus Snake, who has been sent as a proxy by the Patriots to take down Big Boss and his army before he can become too much of a threat. Solidus's main motivation here will be to prove himself as superior to you. After he kicks your ass and takes away Sahelanthropus, you'll find that he's actually operating in the Congo, and this will start the next chapter of the game. Now at this point here, there's going to be a lot more story beats because this isn't about you acclimating to the world and cleaning up what happened in Ground Zeroes. This is going to be more about the war with Cypher. So at this point in the story, things happening at Mother Base are going to be less about just chilling out and hanging around and more about preparing for potential attacks from Cypher, because they will happen. Again, something I will elaborate on in the Mother Base video, but during this chapter, your base will be attacked, Cypher is at war with you, they're going to be able to try to bring the fight to you. So all that prep work and building your base you did in Afghanistan, this is where it either pays off or you suffer for the lack of it. As briefly discussed in the previous video, you'll get to the Congo, you'll see the situation Solidus has there, where on the Patriots' behest, he's exploiting the people and the land for resources to put towards their military expansionism. He rules the area with an iron fist, and you can either help the people that are there take back their home, or bring them back to your base and use as a cheap labor force, much in the same way Solidus is doing. That's going to be a common thing here. There's going to be like those kind of morality choices you make where you're bringing people back to base or you're leaving them in the world, and there's never going to be one continuous right answer or one continuous wrong answer. You're just going to do these things, and you'll feel like you're doing something wrong, not because the game will tell you, but because you'll see the parallels between yourself and the antagonists. So if you go into the Congo and you start Fultoning everybody to have a stronger workforce and more bodies to throw at Cypher when they attack you, you're going to start to see how you're acting in a very similar way to Solidus. And that there is going to be the center of the story in the Congo, the parallels between you and the imitation big boss. Now, in regards to the buddy that you're going to be able to find in the open world, you know that like mansion area in the Africa map in Metal Gear Solid 5? Well, I want that to be like more secluded in this version here. And you're gonna have to seek it out based on rumors. And if you go there, you're gonna have a boss fight against a skull type enemy using a machete. You'll have like a lot of those contextual like quick time CQC moves. You'll have to get the drop on him while he's trying to get the drop on you. It's gonna be a very tense close quarter battle inside of this mansion. If you beat him, it'll be revealed that this skull is just Chico, who has been imbued with, you know, some kind of Patriot technology. I'm going to allude to the parasites and that being a thing here. However, I'm not going to over-explain it. I think Metal Gear Solid supernatural aspects are better when they're not over-explained. So Quiet's going to have these powers and Chico's going to have these powers based on some kind of parasites that Cypher's been working with and testing out with these soldiers specifically. It's not going to be a main theme in the game. It's just going to be something in the background to be like, okay, stop asking questions. These people have superpowers. So yeah, this disfigured, horrifying, demonic version of Chico straight out of the cut concept will reveal that, you know, he resents Big Boss for everything that happened at Ground Zeroes and failing to protect him, failing to protect Paz. He's very clearly not going to be over it. And at this point here, you'll get the option, like with Quiet, to either spare or kill him. If you spare him, he'll show you the research he's been working on. He'll bring you down into the basement of this mansion, where he'll start talking about once he found Solidus, he realized that cloning was a possible technology. So naturally, this guy who's been horribly traumatized by the events of Ground Zeroes gets to work trying to replicate this technology and trying to clone Paz, recreate Paz, and he'll show you that he's almost finished. So if you bring him back to base, you're also bringing this technology back, and you'll have this entire like side story where you have this clone of Paz who starts off being like an exact replica, acting exactly as she should, as, you know, Chico's going to be teaching her, and as you can be teaching her by bringing her certain photographs or talking with her or items of interest. Like, again, I talked about a dialogue system in the previous video. That'll become very relevant here. But yeah, seeing how Chico and Paz develop is going to be a major story beat. Eventually, this clone is going to start wanting a little bit of their own individuality. This imitation is going to want some of their own unique aspects, their own personality. This is going to bother Chico, and there'll be a point in the game where Chico just kind of goes AWOL, and this Paz, while she's discovering her own new kind of personality, you'll be around there at base, you'll be able to see her as she's interacting with other people at base, and eventually Chico will come back because he has nowhere else to go, right? He's one of Big Boss's soldiers now. Outer Heaven is that one area he has where he belongs, a place for all warriors. And eventually you'll get this cute kind of little ending to them where he finds that he likes this new person. It's not Paz, but this new individual is still someone that he ends up getting along with. So in this sense here, the whole thing about like the copy versus the original, the copy in this case will prove to be superior. But now let's get back to Solidus. Solidus is going to be in his base. You're eventually going to do that gameplay loop I described in the other video. You'll work your way in, and you'll have a final confrontation with Solidus once you manage to infiltrate his base. He'll go on about introns and exons and not wanting to be forgotten, how he'll create his own personality here on the battlefield, juxtaposing himself with the whole Pause side quest going on at your base. And he says he's going to prove that he is his own thing and that he's better than you by beating you. You'll have a boss fight with Solidus, and this boss fight I want to play out in a really cool way that I haven't really seen anything do. Basically, I want Solidus to copy whatever your main strategy has been. So if you've been using CQC a lot throughout the game, he's going to be better at CQC than you. If you've been sniping a lot throughout the game, he's going to be a better sniper than you. So whatever you've been doing, he's going to be doing even better. So it forces you to use the opposite strategy and play around with the sandbox and other things. Once you beat him, he will say, give a whole speech about how if he can't win on the battlefield, he'll make his own future in politics or in some other way. To cover his escape, he'll activate a stronger version of Sahelanthropus that will be unbeatable at this point in the game. Solidus will run away. You'll get a bonus from beating him, maybe the combat suit. That'll be what he wears, and when you beat Solidus, you get it for yourself. But yeah, this Sahelanthropus is just going to hound you. So now the Congo map becomes super lethal because just stomping throughout the world is going to be this giant Metal Gear. This stronger version of Sahelanthropus will probably walk in a more hunched way like Metal Gear Rex, making it harder to get to the weak points, explaining how Metal Gears went from standing upright to being more so hunched over. And yeah, it's going to be, you're going to be incentivized to leave the Congo and either go to the next story beat or go back to Africa and grind a little bit so you can get stronger to fight Sahelanthropus and then get back to exploring and finding resources in the Africa map. Once you do finally manage to beat Sahelanthropus though, you'll be able to take it back to base and have it there as your trophy and use it in the defense of your mother base. So if you have choppers and shit coming around there, you can have the Metal Gear shoot it down with the rail gun, and it becomes this super deterrent to keep anyone from attacking your mother base, so you'll be able to chill a lot more. Even after you beat Solidus, the war with Cypher will still be going on. They'll take a major blow and they won't be able to attack your base as often or as hard, but it will still happen occasionally until you get this Metal Gear up and working on your base. You'll spend a lot of time here just going between the two maps, maybe finding music tapes to bond more with Quiet, exploring certain places on base with Pause and cute little date type sections, hanging out with Chico, maybe going to the shooting range with Ocelot, reminiscing with Cause, and whatever other characters you got there. But the main story will really start taking place again once you get to the next Siberia Tundra map. Cause will just tell you, hey, we've received a transmission, we think there's someone of interest hidden at this base here, a Cypher official, and we need to take them down. This will be a major blow. So you get the new map, the new world, and it's going to be, as I mentioned in the other video, a much harder version of either of the other two maps. It's going to be like Camp Omega on steroids. And while the main focus will be on infiltrating this base, probably more so than any other map in the game, there will be a buddy you can find if you go along the outskirts near the caves, where you'll get this really cool wolf boss fight that's really dependent on stealth, where you need to sneak up on him before he sneaks up on you to get the upper hand, and after you take him down, if you don't shoot him right there on the spot, he'll point towards a cave and you'll be able to find a puppy, and that puppy will grow up into D-Dog, so that'll be the third buddy of the game. But besides that, the main focus will be just get into this main base and figure out who this high-end official is. Once you do that, you'll figure out that this high-end official is actually Big Boss, and Cause and Ocelot were in on this whole project. When Big Boss woke up from his coma, he realizes that he's not going to last long with everyone hunting him. He needs someone not only to take out XOF and Skullface, but to also keep Cypher busy while he builds up another army. So Big Boss sets up this base here in this final world as a final test to make sure Venom Snake is worthy and capable of the fight coming forward. The fight with Big Boss will mimic a lot of what went down with the boss in Metal Gear Solid 3, where he'll probably use a Patriot and incentivize you to hide, and it's going to be very cat and mouse. I run away while he's shooting at me, I set up a trap, or I get the drop on him, then I go run away, rinse and repeat. It's going to be a simple thing, but really cool, with some CQC elements thrown in there for extra flair. Once you beat Big Boss in this fight, you'll gain his seal of approval, and at that point there, Big Boss will be a character that can show up on your mother base, in disguise of course, to not give away the fact that there's two big bosses, and he'll comment on things that you've done in the open world by seeing your base, seeing what you've done, the environment you've created, and if it's, true outer heaven with soldiers coming there willingly and working together to have war without end and a home that they can always rely on, you'll get his thumb of approval. But if you've turned Mother Base into like a slavery den where you just have a bunch of like indentured workers going on, Big Boss will treat you more like just like his war dog, just his like brutal enforcer that's just out there to fight Cypher and nothing more. So whether or not Big Boss sees you as an equal, or whether or not he sees you as just a rough imitation of what people picture Big Boss to be, the scary evil legend, is going to be up to you and the decisions you make. And that's going to be the final kind of touch on the whole original versus the imitation sort of thing that we've had going on. So yeah, it's a fairly simple story. I'm not going to sit here and write like 300 pages of side quests and dialogue and all that for this video, but I just want something that's coherent and makes sense. And I feel the whole imitation versus the reality theme is something that fits in with Metal Gear and can be applied to each one of the areas, bosses, and buddies of interest. But what do you guys think? Would you guys want a story that's much more complicated? Do you think I should have gone even simpler? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Anyways, I'm gonna start working on the next video where I talk about Mother Base and how that would work out, and I'll talk more about how these interactions and bonds are supposed to be built and go more into specific about characters when I talk about that one there. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. This has been Pliskin, over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.